Oh, okay. So hello, every peoples. To whoever sees this, we is back to talk about more Digimon. And today we only have Liarev because the Galmon was too tired
hmm
today.
And so was everyone else who could have been in it.
Mm-hmm. So oh well. If anything, that stuff they can do the stuff next time.
hmm
And even then, there's still so much stuff we haven't talked about that you know that we
You
can
could
just
go
cover
back
back
for
later.
every series and talk about the things that are new still.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Last time we left off, we had talked about Adventure One.
hmm
So now we're going to talk about Cross Wars.
Cross
Um,
Wars 1 specifically, or 1 and 2 specifically, or
the
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 whole thing.
Cross Wars series as a whole, obviously not including Hunters, because we would consider that its own thing.
Yeah, I'd agree there.
Okay, so I guess I will start with that one. Um, okay, so I guess I'll start with saying Cross Wars is an awesome season
hmm
of the Digimans. It's really really good. To me, it's probably now my second most favorite series out of all of them.
Yeah.
Um, let's see the big. Let's see some really big things to point out in Crossword as well. I guess the premise wasn't anything too new. I mean, they tried really different things with
With the
um
rules of how Digimon worked.
huh.
With the rules of how Digimon
Oh yeah, yeah,
worked.
no, no, not that, but I mean the premise of the story, the children, they kind of went back to the adventure kind of standards,
hmm
adventures, where it's all basically almost all of it's in the digital world and only some parts are in the human world. But what I was trying to get is that um they didn't do anything like in in Savers or in Frontier, where they tried radically new ideas for what the children and the Digimon were really supposed to do.
hmm They would just like
Um,
defeat the evil power.
yeah, they were back to the tried and true to just defeat the evil bad guy,
hmm
which wasn't bad. Obviously, again, to me, it's the second best season. It's not That's not bad, and again, coming back up from the not so well received Frontier and Savers by
hmm
most people. It was still really good. Um, so the story, I guess this little summary because we have a little bit extra time because it's just me and you. The little summary is basically the digital world, the heart of the digital world basically got smashed into hundreds of pieces, and it's the job of these digidestin and to go around and collect said pieces in order to rebuild the big heart, which is called the crown.
The Code Crown,
Yeah.
yes. They needed to collect the fragments of the Code Crown.
Yeah. So I guess that's a little different, but if anything, the cold crown thing was just kind of tacked on there. It's still basically defeat the big bad guy kind of thing.
I mean,
Um,
in a way, it was like people say Adventure One is like a video game, which I'm not saying it's not. But Cross Wars, the fact that they go to the different worlds and either solve a problem or defeat the boss Digimon in each world to get the Code Crown, that is really video gamey.
hmm but it did pay off.
Yeah.
Um, and but to me, the reason why I rank it higher than Adventure is because of the big change and kind of I guess you can kind of say the gimmick for this season was the cross evolutions, which was
hmm
really cool. It was a whole new take on what you could how you basically could create Digimon really, because the fans had a lot of fun thinking of, oh, what if you cross this with this, what if you cross this with this, what's gonna happen. And that was a really cool kind of thing that they let us have fun with as a canon kind of thing too, not just as a weird crossbreeding kind of fan theory.
It reminded me a little bit of mecha anime like Gurren Lagann, where they'd combine the mechas together.
Well, you see, it's really mecha mostly because Shoutman's style for his thing. His is
Yeah,
probably the most mecha thing. When you look at the other crosses, like not all of them are really mecha kind of
yeah, that.
looking.
But Shoutmon was the main focus.
Shoutman is the base for the cross, so the
Hmm.
style is always gonna be based around him, and he's kind of like like this kind of metallic looking dragon kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
he's very angular looking.
mm-hmm. So, I guess go to characters. Oh well, no. Well, okay. So the code crown thing is actually only for the first part, and we'll get to the second part afterwards. But just to say, looking at the characters, well, we actually have a pretty solid thing of main characters, honestly.
Yeah,
Um, Taichi's to me a really good character.
Taiki.
Taiki, sorry.
Mm.
Taiki's a really good character, a good leader. I mean, he's not perfect. People, obviously nitpick of how he goes so crazy with wanting to help people, and at
That is
times, it is pretty laughable, honestly.
mm.
But I mean, that's his thing. That's what he does.
He's a good
Um,
guy.
yeah, he's just a really nice guy. And then we have Kira, right? Is his name Kira?
Kiriha.
Ki,
Kiriha.
however you pronounce it.
I can't remember
Um.
what his English name was.
Oh,
Hmm.
his English name was a really English name.
Hmm.
Um. But he was basically the antithesis of that. Oh, I don't fucking give two
Standalone.
shits about I don't give two shits about anyone.
Yeah.
Um. Oh, I could give less fucks about my Digimon partners, and he was the real asshole of all of it for a long, long time.
He was a bit of an edge lord.
Mm-hmm. And then we have, at least for the first part, we have
Aku
Nene.
and Zenjo in the first part.
We'll get to them in a minute, but I'm talking about the super main cast.
Yeah.
Is
But
and then
even Kiriha and Nene weren't really the super main cast in the first part.
but they're the ones that have the Digivices, so I mean you have to count them, and they do have their spot later on,
Yeah.
like a lot more, at least a lot more camera time later on.
Hmm.
But then we have Nene, who is probably the best character, honestly, in the show, because she was really funny.
Yeah.
She was always funny. Um, the one bad thing about Nene, though, is she did, and again, kind of spoils the second part, but she did all this, she did all these kind of evil things and turned to the dark side to basically save her brother, and then the second part comes around and just kind of smacks her in the face.
Hmm.
And I thought that I don't think that was particularly good. Like that was literally just to smack Nene in the face for no good reason.
When did that happen specifically?
When they reveal her brother,
Yeah.
that was they didn't have to do that at all. They could have literally introduced a whole new character, or just have oh my god, what's his name? The Dark Knight. Is it Dark Knight Mon? Something
It's
like.
Black Nightmon or Dark Nightmon.
Yeah. Like they could have just had him, do what he was gonna do anyways. They didn't have to do
I
the
mean,
whole
I
brother
I
evil
figured
thing.
that he needed a human to digicross him and his friends, but during the second arc, when the Death Generals actually had digivices and
Mm-hmm.
could digicross themselves with the Digimon, it's like, what? Why did you need a human?
Mm-hmm. So, but like I said before, so we don't feel too much at the second part. Like it wasn't really needed. It
No.
was literally just there to give Nene more issues.
Hmm.
Um, but like I was trying to say though, like she did all this like for to understand whether like if your brother was really a good person, like would he want you to be doing all these evil things in the first place? You should have
Because
found like a different way to save him.
wasn't Dark Nightmon threatening
Yeah, to
brother? Yeah.
yeah, she was, but still, she killed hundreds of Digimon and
Hmm.
you know tricked Taiki and what's his name, multiple times.
Yeah.
Like it was a little ridiculous. It was kind of ridiculous. Um, and then we get to the kind of the side characters, and I count Zenjiro and Akane, is that her name?
Akari.
Akari.
Yeah.
As the side characters because they really didn't do anything like at all, and
No.
it's a little disappointing to have characters literally the best friends of the main character, like the head
Mhm.
character,
The
like
goggle head.
just not do anything, or and like not even be given the chance to do anything. Like we had a little something going where Zenjiro could actually maybe be like a stand-in leader and kind of be a sword fighter,
Yeah, he
but we
took the
never.
Starmon sword, but then Shoutmon took that all the
Yeah,
time as well, so they couldn't have it at the same time.
yeah, and we couldn't like he could never shine in that. And then what was Akari supposed to do?
She didn't
Like,
do anything. Like, she carried Cutemon. That was it.
but that's really disappointing though, isn't it? To have like
Yeah.
these really prominent characters that you see every episode just not
And
do anything.
the fact they were hardly in the second season, and like, they weren't missed at all.
They should have just did what they did. They should have tried to do what they did with Kazu and Kenta and just keep them off the screen as much as you can, but bring them in for when the jokes are really needed.
Hirokazu and Kenta were funny, but like, they were annoying, but they were funny, and you didn't need them much, but I suppose they were like dumbasses in distress for the people with Digimon to save sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But they got Digimon. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when before I saw Cross Wars, I'd seen Prem Art, and I was like, oh hey, there's these three people, so this guy must have Shoutmon, this guy must have Ballistamon, and this girl must have Drulumon.
Well,
And
you
I
kind of
think,
see a little bit of a bond between Durulumon and I mean not Durul Ballistamon and the two of them.
yeah,
Because actually, Ballistamon was actually kind of a really interesting one. He kind of just melded together with everyone, even though he was kind of like the weird robot-y character, the way he
I
talked.
remember. I remember when I was watching through Cross Wars with Konzo, we always joked that Ballistamon didn't do anything. And like he kind of didn't, but when in the second season, when he had his own story arc in the Goldland, we were like, wow, this is amazing. Ballistamon is doing something. He's talking. This is unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, Cross Wars has a huge cast. It has the biggest cast of any Digimon series.
It has the biggest cast, but you don't really focus on all of them.
Exactly. Because it has such a huge cast, a lot of the characters do get out of focus a lot of the time.
So let's see. So the one thing that some people had issue with, and I kind of still do too, though I don't particularly care anymore, is some of the redesigns they had, or at least showed us for the first one, at least, and the most prominent one being Greymon and Metal Greymon, how they were presented. I still don't particularly care for them. But what about you? Do you think like some of these redesigns and also some other ones that I know are there, but I can't remember right now off the top of my head? What do you like? What do you think of them?
Kira has Greymon and Metal Greymon. I actually really like their redesigns. I mean, they look a lot like the Virus Greymon from 02, which, is something, but just like the metal parts and the slight redesigns, I do like that. So, if anything, I think Savers had weirder redesigns. I mean, Agumon looks kind of different.
Well, they just made him bigger and
Yeah.
and gave him some wristbands. That's not crazy, but I mean, you literally in order to make a Metal Greymon, you literally need 2 Digimon now. Like,
Well, I would say that's like a progress, combining 2 adult levels to make a perfect level. And speaking of levels, Cross Wars was one of the series where levels were not a thing.
oh yeah, they were not a thing. Well, I mean, the only other one where they weren't a thing was Frontier.
Yes. Was it? Yeah, it
Yes, because
was.
they only had two forms.
Hmm.
Well, technically three if you count the thing at the end, but we're not going to talk about the big
Yeah.
points of that
But
series
yeah,
yet.
like there are. It's weird. There are some Digimon series where levels are not a thing, and they tend to be the more fantasy um based ones.
Hmm. So there was that. We talked about a bit of the Nene issues for now. Um, okay, so what do you think of Shoutmon as the main Digimon? Because he's obviously probably the most talkative out of all the Digimon,
Out
leading
of the Digimon
Digimons.
in all the series, probably.
Yeah, he definitely talked the most, and he was given a lot of screen time of his own.
Hmm.
So, what do you think of Shoutmons?
I really like Shoutmon. He's like he's not like he wasn't like destined to be with Taiki or anything. He basically joined Taiki. So it's like, hey, we both have these goals and we can help each other achieve these goals.
Hmm. Oh, and another thing for the main overarching plot, Shaman wants to become the Digimon King.
Yeah,
So,
Shaman wants to become the king, and so his goal is to become the king. And he's like, hey, if I help Taiki save the digital world, I can become the king. And because Shoutmon is the center of the Digicross, that means that basically, if they don't have Shoutmon, they can't fight.
well, they can't fight in the same way
Yeah.
that they fight normally, because
Mhm.
they can cross with other Digimon, but I think mostly it was for the sake of simplicity. They didn't want to come up with too many ways of crossing to actually
Yeah.
animate and stuff like that. Sticking
But
to one main design is probably the easiest thing to do. I mean, and again, this is still in the first arc. When they become like that horse mode with what's his
yeah,
name? Like
Beals.
like that was only used like once or twice and never used again. You
Yeah.
know, like we just don't want to animate that thing anymore. So
But the fact that Shoutmon did have a modular evolution thing going on, did have a lot of possibilities. And then he had the super evolution as well.
which is in the second part, which we're not.
Was it?
Yeah,
Uh,
until Taiki comes back, then they do that stuff.
mm. But no, he did it at the very end of the first part. Was it?
Oh, was it? Uh,
Yeah, they did to defeat the boss at the end of the
oh yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the fact that Shoutmon just got so much more screen time than basically any other Digimon in any other series.
Mhm.
And it was Shoutmon's show as much as it was Taiki's.
Mhm.
And even then, Taiki is a badass, but he's kind of he's single-minded. He
Mhm.
doesn't have that much going on. Like he's not super insecure. He's pretty confident.
He's kind
In,
of like a different version of Takado, kind of.
Mhm. Even then, he never had like all of Takato's worries and stuff going on.
Mhm. Hmm.
Um, but
So what? Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying about just the first part of Cross Wars, right?
Mhm.
When I watched it, I thought it was boring. I did
What?
really like the first part. Like,
Mm.
remember yesterday I mentioned like the feeling where you just get really hyped and you're feeling shivers and you're like, yeah, and you want
Mhm.
to just see everything. I
Mhm.
never got that in the first series, except in the one with Breakdramon and the final episode. It never engaged me the
Break
same way a lot of the other series did.
Breakdramon was such a weird concept too. By the way, this
It
this
was.
giant drill thing. Mm.
But I'd say that's probably one of my favorite episodes of Cross Wars. But like, Cross Wars, another thing I would describe it as it's normal. Like a lot of Digimon series, they break the mold and they're weird for anime, but Cross Wars is like normal shonen anime. But
Mhm.
they travel around, spend a couple of episodes in one place, solve a problem, and move on to the next place. It's
Mhm.
kind of Monster of the Week general shonen. This all changed in the second series, but
Mhm.
and the second series definitely did need the context of the first series, but on its own merit, I don't actually think the first series stands up very well.
Mm. Okay, so in defense of the first series, and to go to the next part for the first series, we have the villains, which are the three original generals, being Tactimon,
Hmm.
uh, Lilithmon, and I can never remember the gem guy.
Yeah, I know he is the gem guy.
And like he only had two episodes to his name too, which is kind of sad.
And then he just became a head.
Yeah, and then he became a head. But in defense, he was funny too in the couple things he was in. He was kind of funny. Um, but Tactimon and Lilithmon really did steal the show for
Mm.
the first chunk of Crosswords.
Kiraha and
Um,
Nene were like, they were never really villains. They were just kind of out for themselves. In
yeah.
fact, it had the faction diagrams at the beginning of each episode,
Hmm.
just, I don't know, to remind people or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the kind of the fun things with that was like when Tactimon and the other generals were like looking at their standings, like you could see like, oh, they have so many pieces, these guys have so many pieces, they have so many pieces,
Yeah, they
like
were
that.
all trying to get the code crown
And
pieces.
another thing that was another really video game kind of thingy. Like
Yeah.
when they did their planning and their attacks and all that, was another really video game kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know about you, but to me, my favorite out of those three. And again, we'll get to the other one later because he obviously has the biggest part in the
Who,
second.
Bagumon?
Yeah, in the second arc.
Yeah. He didn't really do anything in the first arc. He just kind of sat there and was evil.
Yeah. Um. I will say Lilithmon always made me smile.
Hmm.
Whenever she was on the screen, either she was getting pissed off or she was just kind of walking around being a sassy bitch. It, she was amazing. She was funny. She was amazing.
Wasn't Damimon a thing in the first season for a
Yeah, yeah,
while?
yeah, yeah. No, Damimon was basically like her little pet for a
Yeah.
little while. And that was also kind of cute too. That was also kind of cute and funny. And then we have the badass, I'm going to really make sure that we win this fight for our leader, the Tactimon. Um, what to say about Tactimon? Well,
He's like a very common trope used in anime to show that a
he
character is badass, is that they can beat you without unsheathing their sword.
he's basically a shogun character. If you
Yeah.
know like a shogun samurai kind of
Yeah.
deal, he's
Hmm.
kind of like the stereotype of that, but evil.
Yeah.
Um, which is a little sad because his attacks and his design were pretty fucking cool.
Hmm.
Um, especially when he fights in the human world when he gets his sword released and shit.
Yeah.
Like that was really cool.
He was a worthy final boss of the series.
Mm-hmm. Um, is it? I am trying to remember. Is it that when they fight him and they get knocked into the human world, or is it they get into the human world and Taiki just gets stuck there?
I don't exactly remember how it goes, but I think he went to attack the human world and they had to go after him. And then
Because it's only Taiki who got out. So.
no, Taiki, Akri, and Zinjiro all got out,
Oh
but
well,
only
yeah,
Taiki
those three.
went back in.
Yeah. Well, I keep forgetting about Genjiro and Akari. Like.
But Taiki had a valid point. It was like, you can't go back in. There's no reason for you to go back in.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was gonna say too when we were talking about them. Literally at that moment when they went back to the human world, for whatever reason, like for just somehow, in some way, I was just waiting for them to get their digivices.
I know.
I was really waiting for it. I'm like,
I'll be
are they
honest.
gonna get
I
it this episode? Are they gonna get it this episode? No.
I was waiting for them to get their Digivices the whole time they were around.
I don't. But it was never presented with a good reason to give them a digivice.
No.
because in the world of Crosswords, you can literally have as many Digimon as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Taiki at the end, Taiki has like 50.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was literally no reason as they were traveling together to have them, participate
Yeah.
in the Digimon collection, basically.
The only reason you need multiple Digivices is to, well, they do their double and final cross, but surely there's no limit on how many Digimon you can Digicross at once.
Well, again, we're not there yet. I don't want to particularly say, but it was still kind of touched upon in the first series that when the big bad guys did get angry, and even Lilithmon did it multiple times, where she would literally absorb multiple units and stuff, their friends and stuff. Yeah, and basically just absorb all the grunts and all that, and just become really huge and big.
Yeah.
Kind of like I call it a Power Ranger moment, where the villain just happens to go, I'm a skyscraper now, kind of thing. I don't know if you ever watched Power Rangers, but
Not, I watched it, but I didn't really understand it.
uh, um, so but yeah, it was kind of that. So yeah, technically, as far as we know, there was never really a limit, because I mean, we saw them took at least like 100 or at least a couple hundred at one time when they
Mm-hmm.
were absorbing grunts and shit like that, the grunt Digimon. So I mean, even the first enemy they fight, the Dark Leomon thing,
Yeah.
like
When
he
he did
absorbed a lot of
that,
people.
I thought, oh hey, are they going to be able to load Digimon like in Tamus again? Because they never did that in any other series.
Mm, no. Uh what was I gonna say? Oh, and just to point it out because it's there, Leomon literally dies right at the beginning, so we can just get it the fuck over with. We
Yeah.
we didn't have to fucking look for it. He literally dies within the first 5 episodes of the show.
Mhm.
So, we didn't point out where Leomon died in Adventure though. I don't particularly remember either. I remember it was when they were in the human world when he died, though, right?
No, they were not.
They were not.
They were. He died fighting somebody. They were in Ashland,
Mm.
and he warp evolved to Sabu Leomon, and Mimi and Joe were there. They were in the ruins of that restaurant that Joe was forced to work in.
Fucking Joe.
Hmm.
Uh, So yeah, well, so there he died. That there, we obviously know that one of the main characters lost her Leomon in Tamers, and Leomon dies in the first 5 episodes of
Hmm.
Crosswords. So there you go. Any other big things about the first arc? Again, we'll talk about Black Knightmon, and we talk about the second arc because that's where he really starts doing shit.
Digimemories.
Oh, the Digimemory. The Digimemories are basically flash drives that you can plug into your Digivice and load up a saved Digimon's
Attack.
presence or attack. Well, I mean, you summon the whole body, like they're there. You
Hmm.
know, it was so weird. It was really pointless, and they don't give two shits about it in the second arc.
There was lore behind it, but it didn't really
It
matter.
didn't matter at all. And we didn't even get all the lore. There was just a little bit. I think they were just put in there to kind of show some of the nostalgic points because they were obviously Digimon that we knew for the most part.
Yeah, and like in the eye catch between the ads, it made it look like Digimemories were going to be a huge thing, but they really weren't.
Mm-mm. They
I
were
mean, I
used in
wonder
like 3 battles, right?
they were used a bit more than that, but not much, and they were basically forgotten about in the second arc. But I think Digimemories were like a thing in the games, and they were.
They were a thing in the save kind of like in the Savers games where you basically collect Digimon data and that's how you make Digimon.
They were a
That's kind of
thing
the idea.
in Digimon World Redigitized. When your Digimon died, you could save it as a Digimemory and summon it 3 times in battle and do its attack.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
was,
Well, it was just there for references mostly. Yeah. Either way, even if it's just a reference to the game. Yeah. So, but is there any other book points for the first arc for that one?
I don't think so. Like I would say Cross Wars 1 is one of the few series where you could skip a number of episodes and not really lose much plot wise.
You do lose a bit of character wise though, because there was
Yeah.
some good character moments there.
Well, you could say that about any series.
Mm.
Hmm.
Well, maybe not like the second half of '02, but again, we're not in '02 yet. Um. So okay, and so I guess just to say the end, and then we'll pause so we can go to the next part.
Hmm.
Um. Spoiler for anyone who hasn't watched it. They technically lose at the end of the first arc.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a bummer. And then they went on a break for a little while, and we didn't get to see what happened until a good while after they basically lost.
They got all of their Code Crown pieces stolen.
Mm-hmm. And Ragramon, which again we're going to talk about in the next part, basically has complete control over the digital world.
Hmm.
Okay, so we'll take a break and right now.